Megan Fenyo presents I Am Enough TV. Be your best self. Awaken the power within you. Transform your life completely through the power of ultimately believing you are enough. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of I Am Enough TV. I am your host, Megan Fenyo, and super excited to have the lovely Deborah Harlow with us today. She is the founder of Joyful Leader. Thank you so much, Deborah, for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure, love. Thank you for having me.
Yay. So I always like to start by asking the infamous question, what does it mean for you to be enough?
Personally, this was a journey I started a couple of years ago, exploring what does enough mean. And it was a simultaneous releasing of what was not mine to carry anymore, because the baggage of others made enough too heavy, because I was proving that I was worthy to carry theirs as well. And enough really was the owning of ordinary moments being beautiful, that I am imperfect and that's perfect in its own way, and that every journey that I'm having is meant to be enjoyed. So there was a freedom that came from stating that I don't need to change. I was born enough, I remain enough, and I only grow in being better of that version. And that's been a really freeing experience to be able to own the word enough in that way.
I love that. I love that because it's kind of like the mission of the movement, right? Like unapologetically owning who we are and getting into that space where we feel confident to say, yes, there's going to be things in life that are difficult, but I'm not going to lose that confidence of being enough, right? And not letting that one situation that may happen in our life to catastrophize our entire being of thinking that we are enough. So I love that. So you and I connected a couple months ago at a networking event, and your beautiful daughter and your husband was there. And it was so much fun because you really, and we'll definitely get into like what you do as well, but you really embrace the I Am Enough movement. And I have you and your daughter are featured on the Instagram page, holding your I Am Enough card. And then you went a little bit further, and this is awesome too, because I love this. Well, share the story about the kids, like share how you got the card there and all of that stuff.
So yes, we did meet at a charity event, T.R. Garland and his lovely family, and you generously gave me a stack of the I Am Enough cards, and they've been in my purse, and I just kind of serendipitously give them out to women or people that I see when I'm feeling called to give them. And then my daughter had her 8th birthday party, and her birthday is in June, so her birthday always is like excitement and sadness feeling because everybody's gone at summertime, nobody's around to come to my birthday. And so this year I was like, all right, we're going to make sure that we catch everybody before they leave town. And it was insane. We had everybody RSVP this year. So I had close to over 55 people in my house, considering parents and kids. And she wanted the theme to be cosmic beauty. So being connected to the universe. So we had it all decked out like that. And I thought, well, how beautiful would it be if we're connecting to our divinity through kids, through art, and the cosmic beauty that we're all interconnected if we all state I am enough. So I handed out every single card I had, and I didn't have enough for all the kids. So I kind of interspersed it in amongst them. And I stood up on this staircase that looks down into where they were at. And I asked them on the count of 3 to yell out, I am enough, while holding up the stickers. Wow. And they all did. And then I had parents asking me, well, what is that all about? And then I got to tell them about your movement. And from a simple act of being present, that I am enough, to hold a container for others to be enough, that moment happened. So I love it.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. And so for all of our viewers, you can head to the Instagram page, which is enough_movement_, and you can check out that photo. When you sent it to me, I was just ecstatic because it's so important. And, you know, the movement actually just became a nonprofit, which I'm super excited about. Yay. And one of the goals, one of the missions is to really reach out to more schools and more kids, because, we struggle with this as adults, but we create that story of not being enough early in childhood, right? Like
Right.
if we grow up in a dysfunctional family, or for me, like I have a learning disability and, all of these things, I didn't realize that I started creating that story in my head that I wasn't enough. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing that message with kids. And, for any of our viewers out there, if you want the cards to give to kids, to, schools or whatever, just please reach out to me. They're absolutely free, and I will give them to you just to help spread the movement. So again, Deborah, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. It was a beautiful day.
Thank you. So let's chat a little bit more about you. So share with us exactly what you do. And on the show, I like to be very vulnerable and authentic, as much as you feel comfortable with, about maybe some struggles that you've been through in life, to where it got you today, and how you share, your passion and your purpose to the people you work with.
I love it. All right. So I am very comfortable in being vulnerable and transparent. So here we go.
Good.
So when I was 12, my dad had a massive stroke that left him paralyzed. And at that point, my mom was the stereotypical wife and homemaker. And we had just moved 2 months previous to that to San Francisco. So here we are in San Francisco. Dad is completely handicapped, no community, no family, no nothing. And I had just turned 12.
Wow.
So every dynamic that you can think of at that stage of figuring out who you are completely flipped on a dime. So my mom went out and got a job that would provide for good medical for the family. I dropped out of public school and became my dad's nurse. I had hospice people come in teaching me how to care for him. And I then ran the household, took care of my dad, and made sure that my brother, who was 10 at the time, got off to school every day and did his schooling. I went from 12, not even teen yet, to adult overnight. Wow. And the pros and cons of that was that I cared for my father for 12 years until he passed. And during that time, I was in kind of like fight or flight mode, because it was just constant crisis. And so at a time that I was critically developing as an individual, as a young lady, figuring out if I'm enough, what is enough define as, I had shoved that to the back of my brain, and I became a massive problem solver. I was the person you could rely on to figure out a solution and get it done. I also became the person that shoved her feelings down because there was no adult to listen. So when people would ask me how I'm doing, I would say, I'm okay. And we all know okay is not an answer when you're asked how you are doing, right?
It's not a feeling. Good, okay, fine, and great are not feelings. I always tell my patients that, not feelings.
Exactly. So if somebody says they're okay, they be lying.
Yep.
And they haven't dipped down beneath the chin to tell you what they're really feeling.
Exactly.
So I lived my youth and my developmental, really raw, vulnerable ages being completely monotone to any emotional expression. As I then, after my father passed away, I then, went into what it meant for me to do the work that I wanted to do in this world. And I was very clear that what I wanted to do was to be able to give a voice to those that didn't have a voice. Children, women, and people in the caregiving community. And so I worked in those areas kind of as side passions. My job in corporate in San Francisco was very different. It was traditional corporate executive project management, things like that. But what I realized was the through line was I didn't always care about the project. I always cared about the people. And it was, again, about making sure that people felt seen and heard and celebrated and given the tools to succeed based on who they were as an individual. So I went into psychology and sociology training, and then moving that forward, studying pediatric nursing, working with kids that had autism and Asperger's, again, focusing on ways to give people a voice. Then I moved from San Francisco to Southern California and marrying my husband, where we had been dating long distance. And when I moved down here, there was no industry like there was in San Francisco. I'm in a small little town near Palm Springs. So out of necessity, I launched my business. And that's where I went into business coaching, life coaching, strategy pieces like that. And over the last handful of years, it's evolved to incorporate in also doing girls empowerment workshops. So I'm a girl life empowerment facilitator, and I run workshops for girls between the ages of 5 and 12. I also do sistership circles, which is a really deep and powerful work that we do with women. It's 3 hours long. We really get into what it means to be a woman and face the things we need. And it all circles around this. How do I personally define that I am enough?
Mm-hmm.
So we may ask that question in different ways, but when I got down to the core of it, it said, okay, my purpose is to be a messenger. And in order to be a messenger, I have to be number one. I have to release all of the old stereotypes that me being first is bad. And I need to be very clear about what's mine to carry up the mountain. Because if I have a purpose, a calling in this world to do big work, I need to pack strategically and I need to pack light.
Mm-hmm.
So every single time something comes at me, whether it's an opportunity or a conflict, I am very clear about what my joy factor is. So I can very clearly say a joyful yes or a joyful no. And that allows me to be staying constantly in my enoughness, to know that I am meant to do this work, to be present in my life for my clients and my family and for myself.
Wow. So many questions. Thank you so much for sharing that and for being authentic and vulnerable. So one of my first questions is going back to your childhood. Was there, like, when you got into adult life or after he passed away, because what I heard from you is a lot of like codependency stuff, right? It's like,
Right?
and not in a negative way. I think a lot of people think that codependency can be negative, and we're all codependent in a way, but you were put into this situation where you had to leave school to take care of your dad. And how did you transform or transition, I should say, from after he passed to thinking about yourself, right? And like, what did that look like for you? Where, did you go back to like having to feel like you had to take care of someone else? Or were there guilty feelings of now, okay, I need time to heal and process everything that's happened over the last couple of years with my father? What did that look like for you?
Well, it's common in the caregiving, especially family caregiving, non-professionals, that when your role transitions, either the family member gets better or the family member transitions into death, you have a loss of identity because you were so entrenched. Even if you're good about self-care, even if you're good about your own goals, your own life purpose, you get so wrapped up in the crisis that you lose your sense of self, right? And so when my father passed, it was 12 years, 12 critical, fragile, young years of me and my identity. He passed and I was like, I have no idea who I am, what I want to do. I hadn't gone to college because I needed to be present with family. So in the first 2 years after my father passed, my mom was in a deep depression. She was just even more so lost of his passing. So I moved back in with my mom and helped her transition, slowly packing up dad's stuff, slowly transitioning out of the Bay Area up to Sacramento, where she's from. And when she was finally safe and secure up there, I had this moment of, who the hell am I?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know really what I want to do. I'm not too sure what lights me up. I don't even know what it means to be Deb. So I figured the best way to do that would be just to start dabbling and taking some classes. I had a full-time job, but I started going to school full-time at nights and weekends. And I dabbled in everything, like I said, from sociology to psychology to computer science to you name it. Because I figured, what a beautiful way to be able to see what lights me up than to experience what's out there. And along the way, I just remained open that there needed to be a message that was coming in, because there's always been this piece of me that stuck to two things: that I am worthy of love and I am enough. Even when I didn't fully feel it, I always knew that I was worthy because I've always known that I'm a good person. And the second thing that's always carried me through everything, and my mantra in life, if you will, is to find joy in the journey. And that no matter how challenging every single step of the way had been, I would always laugh. I would always remind people of what we had together. My role was always finding joy, not in being the court jester, but in saying, like, even in the darkest hours, there still is light, and there still are things that can light us up to feel joyful. So that process allowed me to kind of just play with who I was. I also did some traveling. I traveled around the world. I was reminded of what other cultures are like and how they approach family caregiving. And all of those moments were just gentle seeds that were planted, so that when the epiphanies came when I turned 40 and I started shifting into the next stage that has been over the last 5 years, I was very clear that everything that I had gone through and everything that I experienced was part of the journey to prepare me to be the woman that I am today, to do the work that I'm doing today. But I have the compassion and the open-heartedness and the patience to understand when those come to me with those experiences. I know what it's like because I've walked the path before them, and I can lead with love and compassion, and I can be that sacred container for others' experiences.
Oh my goodness. I love that. There's so many tools in there that you were talking about that, I talk about with my patients and for myself too, because although we work with people and we, empower them and give them things, we're still human too. And we still struggle with certain things.
Right.
But what I love is, that you said something, and I always remind myself, like, when things happen in life, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me, right? Like
Right.
this car accident I was in, it has been a whirlwind of the last 2 weeks, and pain and this and that and all of this stuff. And I could have gone down that road like, oh yeah, this always happens to me. Like there's always something going on, right? But it's saying,
Right.
okay, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me, which just adds to my story of living with chronic pain, right? And stuff I talk about. So I love that. Your daughter is absolutely adorable, and we had so much fun at the event. We were playing on the floor, we were running around. What is it like to do the work that you do and have a child? And how old is she again? I can't remember.
She turned 8 this year.
8. And she's very involved in what you do. And there were some things that she was telling me about that she learned from you, or that I think there's a thing. What is the thing that the finger thing you guys do? Don't you do a finger thing? I can't remember. I remember something that she showed me, and I can't, so forgive me, but remind me again, because that's what she did. And I was just like, this is amazing to have like a daughter that like is literally following what you're doing.
So she had a pretty tragic experience when she was 3.5. She got injured really badly at a daycare. She'd fallen into a coffee table, and all of her front teeth were knocked out. She had to have plastic surgery on her face. It was really, really tragic. And I knew that this was not going to define her, right? So I asked every single person I knew that had children that had naturally lost their teeth, please send photos of your children with their front teeth out smiling to show that not having teeth is still beautiful. Please give me examples to show her that even though this is tragic, she will be okay. She went through PTSD after that. So anytime there would be blood or a bloody nose or anything, just freaking out, as you can imagine. So I went back into my training, the psychology and everything, and it's still, even with the training, it's challenging when it's your child, right? So when they're in the middle of PTSD, you got to dig deep to make sure that you don't get triggered. So I did this thing where I said to her, Mommy cannot fix everything, but I can hold your problems until you're ready. Right?
Wow.
So she puts her forehead against my forehead. She puts her hands in my hands, and we breathe 3 times deep together. And after the 3rd breath, I say, Mommy's going to hold whatever problem you need right now until you're ready to take it back. If you want to talk about the solution, we'll talk about it. But the solution is for you to decide. I want you to always be empowered to find the solution on your own, but you don't have to carry it on your own. So I'll hold it until you're ready. And we've been doing that since she was 3.5.
I love it.
And so now when she's having a bad day, she'll say, Mommy, hands, Mommy, hands. And we come together, we do the 3 breaths. She tells me her issue, and I said, I'm going to hold it. Remember, tell me when you're ready to talk about it. Tell me when you're ready to figure out your solution. And then I give it back to you to solve.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Oh, I absolutely love it. And she's adorable. And there's never enough time on this show, so we only have a couple minutes left, but
okay.
I want you to share just briefly again, what you do and how people can get in contact with you.
So I am a business and life coach. I predominantly work with women and some really brave men. And what I do is really thinking about, what is the process that makes you divinely aligned to you? Mm-hmm. So we do the front end work before we get into the business stuff. Because a lot of times people come and they say, oh, my funnel's not working. And I'm like, it's not your funnel. It may be a technical issue, but it's probably more along the lines of you're not aligned to making that offer. You're not aligned with your team. You're not aligned with something. So we can look at the technical aspect because that's also my training. But let's start with the stuff that really matters first. so that we don't have that technical hiccup again.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're
Wow.
all energies and we're all frequencies. So
Yep.
yes, it may be a little funnel piece, but it's probably something else. So predominantly that's what I do. Like I said, I also do the girls empowerment workshops. I do events and retreats with women. I also do mother-daughter retreats, which is a really special experience that I get to do with
Oh,
my daughter
gosh.
and other mother-daughters.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram like I am with Melody here, then I'm over at Heart Sherpa, H-E-R-T, Sherpa, S-H-E-R-P-A. And that's a nickname that my clients at community gave me when they said that I lovingly guide them on the journey of life, finding joy in the journey. So
Oh my
that's how
gosh.
the name came together.
I love it. I love everything you do, especially I haven't had a lot of guests on the show that work with mothers and daughters and children. So this is really refreshing because my heart also wants to reach more children with the movement. So thank you so much for what you do and for supporting the movement.
Yes.
And definitely to anyone that's watching, be sure to check out Deborah and all of the amazing things that she's doing. So we have about a minute left. Real quick, what is your, and I know you said it earlier, but let's remind the audience again, what is your favorite mantra or affirmation?
Probably, I mean, it's hard to choose one, right? Because the words are really powerful. But if I had to choose one, it would be what's been my tagline of life, which is find joy in the journey.
I love that. Simple and to the point. Find joy in the journey. Thank you so much, Deborah, for joining us today. And I always like to end our show by saying my favorite quote, which is, you are enough just as you are, regardless of whatever season you're in. And the more you celebrate and focus on that, the more you will live in your strength. Remember, you can check out the show on Roku. You can also download the Easy Way Network app on your Android or iPhone. Also, go to my website, grab some free resources, order your free I Am Enough cards. Lots of free stuff on my website, meganfenyo.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Never forget, you are enough.